So it's been a while since I got to create another Kingdom content. Sorry about that. It's just it takes a while for me to gather all the necessary materials to create this video. I had to read the manga again for contextual purposes and some military history. So the reason that I specifically choose Gen.Kanki is because of the recent events that have been happening lately, all this trouble that have been brewing overseas. So it made me think that if trouble would ever come to me, how would I act? What type of mindset would be appropriate if things go south? Let's all face it. Inevitably in life, you will find yourself facing people who are more aggressive, crafty, and ruthless than you, who are determined to get what they want. I know that some people would just say that I am paranoid or something worse, crazy. But almost all the time, bad things happen to us because they are what we call outliers. So instead of just wasting precious brain cells to anxiety, I went back to reading Kingdom to find a mental model on how to deal with those unwanted types who makes living on Earth worse for everybody. Truthfully, not everyone is gifted with a fighting body. That puts me at a very disadvantage in a physical altercation. So in my research, I have found that the best general in Kingdom for fighting a dirty fight is none other than Gen.Kanki, former bandit turned grade 6 general of Kin. So here are some things we can learn from Kingdom's infamous resident anti-hero general. During the Battle of Sanyo, Kanki was pitted against Wei's Kaishibo, said to be on par in terms of destructive power with General Renpa. But even him, Kaishibo, found himself struggling against Kanki's guerrilla style of warfare. Kanki's method of combat was not to fight Wei's forces head-on. He scattered his forces in various spots, from hills, mountains, and dense forest trees. Kanki would only attack weak, vulnerable openings and then retreat. If a pursuing enemy unit goes too far out of military formation, this unit would be ambushed by awaiting Kanki forces. But that was not all what he did. He even added a little extra dose of psychological fear to his enemies. He would occasionally send the defiled corpses of ambushed Wei soldiers back to Kaishibo's camp, along with gouged out eyes, ears, and limbs, all to build up a reputation that Kanki is a little crazy. Psychological effect. Fear gets inside Wei army's heads, making its soldiers imagine gruesome scenarios happening to them if they are captured, doubling the decrease in morale and making them unhinged. Because sometimes, for Gen.Kanki, uncertainty is better than overt threat. If your opponents are never sure what messing with you will cause, they will not want to find out. Kanki knew the best way to fight off aggressors is to keep them from attacking you in the first place. Because of this, General Renpa had no choice but to send Genpo, who dealt a devastating blow to the center army of Qin, to assist Kaishibo because of the lack of progress to the left side of the battlefield. Genpo immediately knew that Kaishibo was a mismatch to Kanki, because what the battlefield in the left required was a tactician for a tactician approach. But what made Genpo failed, and eventually his death, is his lack of knowledge to Kanki's background. Kanki, being a former bandit, was never schooled in the military arts. He followed no rules of fighting. He just breaks into any place he wants. In Genpo's mind, Kanki is a cheap strategist. In his assessment of the battlefield, Kanki was just dragging the battle to lower the morale of Kaishibo's main army. Kanki splintered his forces like flies, picking off Wei soldiers. Then once morale is down, Kanki would assemble his main forces and land the killing blow. Genpo even accurately discerned Kanki's camp, and once this was established, Genpo sent Kaishibo to Kanki, hoping he would obliterate it. And then the thing happened. Out of nowhere, Genpo noticed that the messenger's uniform were too blooded. Genpo asked the messengers why is that. Without answering the question, the messenger started killing everyone. And behold, Kanki emerged as one of the messenger. Genpo was still acting as if he was the superior strategist, criticizing Kanki's way of doing battle. But Kanki is just simply doing things that people dislike. The problem with Genpo was not his lack of Kanki's background, but his vast knowledge of strategies. It weighed him down. His past knowledge brought him misery. He did not react to the present moment. All he knew was strategy. He repeated the same tried methods. Find his camp and crush him. What limits individuals as well as nations is the inability to confront reality, to see things for what they are. As Genpo grew older, he became more rooted in the past. Habit has taken over. Something that has worked for him before becomes a doctrine, a shell to protect him from reality. Repetition replaced creativity. He rarely realized he was doing this, because it is almost impossible for him to see it happening in his own mind. Then suddenly, a young Kanki crosses his path. A person who does not respect tradition, who fights in a new way. Only then did he saw that his ways of thinking and responding have fallen behind the times. Understand, the greatest generals, the most creative strategists stand out not because they have more knowledge, but because they are able, when necessary, to drop their preconceived notions and focus intensely on the present moment. That is how creativity is sparked and opportunities are seized. Knowledge, experience, and theory have limitations. The target of Kanki's strategy this time around was less the Zhao army, but the mind of the man or woman who runs it. Kanki understands how the mind works. Thus, he has the keys to deceiving and controlling it. He trained himself to read people, picking up the signals they unconsciously send about, their innermost thoughts and intentions. He watches his enemies closely and mines them for information. He is also aware of not projecting his own emotions and mental habits onto them. He tries to think as they think. By finding his opponent's psychological weaknesses, he can work to unhinge their minds. Commander Keisha, Kanki's enemy, prided himself on his ability to gauge people's psychology and use it against them. But in this case, he was outwitted by a man far superior at such a game. Kanki's modus operandi was the following. He would quietly study his enemies from behind his exterior. In his very first meeting with the enemy, he saw a man who lay traps in the battlefield. He noticed that Commander Keisha was very cautious and would never come out of his territory unless it's necessary. Battles with the Raido Seno clan confirmed this. This insight won Kanki the battle by not going all out and wasting the enemy commander's time. Commander Keisha was ordered to reinforce the area by Riboku to prevent further expansion of the Qin military to Zhao territory. Managing armies cost manpower and resources. That's why they needed to finish the war as soon as possible, making Commander Keisha come out of his hiding place, creating an opening for the High Shin unit, enabling Shin to land the killing blow. Kanki's genius was to recognize the appropriate target for his strategy.